Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Going to be talking Impact Wrestling for you once again today. The Slammiversary predictions are already up on the channel, so go and check them out now, or I suggest at the end of this video. But of course, with any good pay-per-view, once you've done your predictions, the pay-per-view announces a new match the very next day. So without further ado, the Rascalz have thrown out an open challenge for Slammiversary, which I think is very exciting for a tag team match. Des and Wentz. Who will be the people that will be taking on these guys at the pay-per-view? There's so many different potentials, and I'm going to give you 10 suggestions right now. The last 9 will hopefully be a bit more exciting, but the first one, number 10, of course, is a tag team amongst the Impact roster. Now, I've gone for the most exciting option, potentially first to talk about, will be the Desi Hit Squad, mainly because they've kind of been known of disbanded because of Rohit Raju being actually competing on his own for like the last number of weeks, in fact, couple of months. But the Desi Hit Squad are still featured on the Impact website. So either someone's slacking on the website or this team still has a future together in Impact Wrestling. It would be interesting to see if they would be around on the show. But I hope it's not that. I'd like it to be an outsider, and it feels most likely we'll get an outsider. So whether it's the Desi Hit Squad, whether it's Triple XL, whether it's, the Dinas, or we could even be talking about, TJP and Falabar, I think all of those guys will get a night off, and we'll focus on number 9 onwards, potentially as teams of what it could be. Some will be more likely than others as I go into this list. But number 9, going to start off with Eli Drake and James Storm. Now, ironically enough, these guys are the NWA Tag Team Champions. Both have previous history of Impact Wrestling, and, well, there's been rumours going around circulating today that Billy Corgan may be forced to shut down NWA, which is a real shame if that's the case. I'm a big fan of NWA Power. I thought they've done some great stuff, but, of course, if it was to, it would mean a lot of talents would be available, and maybe not all talents are under contract and would be available to perform anyway. This would be the biggest coup of all the NWA tag teams, purely because of the fact that Eli Drake and James Storm have got major history within Impact Wrestling, have been main eventers, were arguably 2 main eventers themselves in amongst NWA. For them to come in as NWA Tag Team Champions, it would be a big deal in my opinion, although I would prefer to see them as perhaps a team that would go singly into the company rather than as a team. James Storm, ironically enough, has been featured in some of the advert graphics leading into Slammiversary, and that's what made me think that this, even though very unlikely, could be an outside bet that you could make for Slammiversary. And number 8 is the Rock and Roll Express. They're still going. They must be in the 60s, and they still are competing to this day. Not a tag team I necessarily would really want to be in this spot. I want it to be built for the future. Something exciting for Slammiversary, but these guys have been competing on Power, and like I said a minute ago, if Power was to be stopping, then the Rock and Roll Express would be available for bookings. At number 7, and again with NWA Power, we're going to be talking Homicide and Eddie Kingston. Both together have been in Impact Wrestling previously and have been teaming in NWA. It would be interesting to see them come back. Now, them compared with Hernandez were the OGs, and the OGs were around just a couple of years ago. As we go into number 6, Hernandez and Homicide were the main team there, and Eddie Kingston was leading the line against LAX in Slammiversary. I can believe it's a year or 2 ago. I want to say it was 2 years ago, and to think that in time that quickly, these guys could make a return and make an impact in the tag team division. Hernandez is already there, so if they could bring Homicide in or Eddie Kingston as well, they could reunite this trio, and that could be the team that could go after the Rascalz. And I think it would be interesting TV if we was to see that. At number 5, the Motor City Machine Guns. Now, whilst unlikely, this is a match that I think would be incredible to watch. Can you imagine the Rascalz, it's the Machine Guns? I think it would be awesome. Alex Shelley was last seen in the ring from what I've seen in NXT earlier this year. He was a part of the Dusty Tag Team Classic with Kushida. Chris Sabin I've not seen for a while. I'm not sure what his situation is, but I have seen their graphic as well featured leading into Slammiversary. And what an amazing reunion to have one of the greatest Impact tag teams of all time, the Motor City Machine Guns. I'd love to see it. I hope you'd love to see it as well. But still, I would say fairly unlikely. Number 4, the Ascension. Forgotten tag team, from WWE, not even really been mentioned since the WWE releases. Now, I think they were released prior to this, but they haven't been seen since, from what I'm aware of. I would be interested to see what they would do in an Impact Wrestling tag team division. They did really well in NXT. They were booked really strong at the time. They went to the main roster, and they were absolutely buried. If they were put in a different climate, a different company, maybe this tag team could thrive. They had a great, cool gimmick going on. Yes, you could argue it's a bit of a knockoff on LOD and perhaps with Demolition back in the day, but those teams were successful, right? Maybe under a different platform, these guys would do really well. And it would be interesting to see if they were involved with the Impact Tag Team division. So I'm not ruling this one out. I think it's a slight dark horse option, but I would say that it would certainly be an interesting one, a potential that we could see as we go slightly into the more realistic potentials here for Slammiversary. Number 3, Zack, Ryder and Curt Hawkins. Well, Curt Hawkins has been previously in Impact Wrestling, although I think it was more under the Global Force Wrestling days. Zack Ryder would be, I think, immensely great for Impact Wrestling if it was to come in. I think these two could do something great, maybe a podcast. Maybe you could have the Internet Championship, could be a great way to throw that into the company as well. These two as a tag team coming to Impact, I think would be a massive coup for Impact Wrestling. So I'm going to say that I think this would be a great shout if both of these were to come in. Is it likely? I'm still unsure. I still have a feeling that these could end up in AEW in time. But, well, we're going into Slammiversary. That show is first. They're certainly an option, and perhaps one that we could say could be taken fairly seriously. Number 2, I'm going to the more likely ones now. Heath, Slater and Rhino. Of course, Rhino is already a part of Impact Wrestling. Heath Slater feels like a lock. He said July 18th that he'll be showing up to wrestle. Well, what other show is going on in town during that date? There isn't. So I feel it's almost safe that Heath Slater will be part of Impact Wrestling. And these two as a team would be a great way to kick it off. And I think this would be a natural fit for a tag team. It boosts the tag team division. It certainly adds strength in depth. Rhino would have probably a bit more of a purpose going on in the roster once again. Heath Slater got a new lease of life. I think that this could be something a bit golden and a great tag team match as well. The only interesting vibe here, though, it would be face versus face. And I think that obviously looking at some of the teams here, we've got some faces, some we've got some heels. But I think that on this sort of vibe, you'd want a team like this to go in as strong baby faces rather than heels. So for me personally, I would in one way prefer it to be a heel tag team, which is why I've gone for number 1, and this would be my prediction and the most likely option for me. Anderson and Gallows. Doc Gallows, of course, previous history with Impact Wrestling. Carl Anderson there as well. Those two are rumoured to have signed done material for Impact Plus. It feels likely that if a tag team was going to compete on night 1, these guys would be ready, signed, and this deal was done a while ago. So this could have been planned and put in the works leading into the show. So that is my team that I think is most likely. I think that it would send the most shockwave of all tag teams involved here. And I think personally that this is the tag team that would definitely add more than just a layer of depth to the tag team division. This could be a team that could carry the tag team division. Could you imagine matches against the likes of the North? We've mentioned the Rascalz there and other tag teams in Impact Wrestling. And as well, we could even have new champions in Shamrock and Callahan. And I think that they would be great opponents as well for Gallows and Anderson. So I think they'd be very interesting indeed. But that's my pick there, and that's a top 10 of options there. Who would you like to see? Is there someone perhaps on the indie scene that maybe I've not thought about that you'd like to mention in there? What team do you want to see face the Rascalz in the Open Challenge at Slammiversary? Don't forget to check out as well, the prediction video is already up and running, so go and check that out now. And of course, Extreme Rules, if you're interested in WWE, go and check out those predictions available on the channel as well. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. This is SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. I'll see you next time. Take care and enjoy Slammiversary.